My fellow developers, thank you for watching this video. My name is David, and today we are going to talk about managing configurations using Configu. In this video, you will see me taking my already existing application that has multiple environment variables and converting the management of those variables into Configu. Configu will help me collaborate, validate, and manage different environments for my applications more easily. Now, let's move on to code and terminal. In my application here, I already have a list of environment variables inside my .env file. And you can see a port, Mongo URL, Redis URL, JRT secret, auth variables, and of course node and a set of development. I can run my application, but the variables are not in use, so the app will crash as expected. As you can see, the app didn't get the port from the variables, so it crashed as expected. I will use my config for the first time. I will run init. I will import the variables from my existing file, and the config.json just created, and it mentions all of the variables. I will run it again, and I will add the defaults flag. Great. The same file is created, but now the values from the .env file configured as defaults. I'm going to make sure that the type of port will be validated as number. Using that, we'll make sure that my app will retrieve valid variables in runtime. There are plenty of type validations and features here, and we'll talk about them on a different video. The val command can calculate each variable source and validate and more. We will pipe that command to the configu export, another command. The export command can retrieve a format like .env and print the keys and the values in that format. There are many formats available out of the box, for example, YAML, Helm values, Kubernetes config maps, or Terraform values. Yeah, this is the config map. I will recreate my .env file using the format .env and set the output to the .env file. And I get the same content as earlier. You'll just see it. Yes. The export command has the ability to run your application, having the variables inside the process instead of reading it from a file. So I actually don't need the .env. Those variables didn't come from any .env. Let's change the port to 4004. Rerun the application. And yes. Now it's using 4004. We'll try to add a non-numeric value. Configu will not let me run the application. We'll also get a very descriptive error message. I believe that at this time, we should already introduce the Configu application. I created an account for this demo called The Greatest App. I will use this account to manage my config. So first Configu login. And now what I'm about to do is to use the .env file to store my values in my Configu store. I recreated the .env file, and I'm setting the values as I want them in my config environments, in my dev environments. With Configu upsert, I can update my Configu store by setting the set path, the schema file, and the source of my actual values. So store is Configu, the set is cats at dev, the schema file, and I import from the .env. After it's done, we can see it on the Configu app. we can see that it looks more like a tree, and I can access the variables of a specific path. I can also run my application using those variables using Configu eval command by mentioning the set path and pipe the data to the Configu export command. So Configu export, run, npm start. Can you see those variables? They came from my Configu store. I can even remove my .env file to prove my point. Let's rerun the application. And I get the same values, although my defaults are different, right? So 4,400. Now let's create a production set. I recreate the .env file. Let's say that in my production, I need a different port, a different auth identifier, and probably node might need to be production. I also need a different auth app ID, and probably my JWT secret is different. We'll now use Configu upsert, but with a slightly different path. I choose cats/production. And it's done. Let's hit on Configu up, go to the graph, and now under the cats I have dev and production. You have to see the variables, and you can see those are the correct ones. You can also compare a tree between cats dev and production and watch the diff between them. Come back to the terminal, rerun the application using Configu eval and export. Start with dev again. Great, and now we can do it again, but I changed the set to cats production. You can see it. Set is cats production, and you can see those are the production variables. Great. Let's make it more interesting. Let's say that my Mongo URL in production should set as USist1. Let's configure an imaginary URL like USist1 MongoDB. Upsert the change, so Configu upsert to production. See change in Configu. Yes, we got it, the correct value. And now again, eval and export and run the application with the production set. Try again with the dev set. Amazing. Let's add another twist. My app also has users in Europe. Now, for them, I have a different auth identifier. The JWT and Redis are the same, but my database should be at EU Central 1. The rest are the same, so let's keep only the changes. I will use Configu upsert for a new branch on the tree, cats production EU. My account, I can watch the diff, but if you look at everything, you will see that EU inherits the data from production. So I don't need to fill everything up, just these changes. There's also a more visual graph, visual view on the graph. But let's go back to the terminal. Rerun the app. If we're using cats dev, we get the dev environment. If we're using cats production, we get a production environment. And for production EU, we will connect to Europe. You can see that everything I didn't mention in Europe specifically got inherited from production. Nice. Now I think it's a good time to remind you the command I entered at the beginning of this video. You can use Configu export to export the variables in any format you like. For example, Helm values, Terraform values, everything like. So let's test it. We'll use Configu export, format, Helm values. Great. Terraform values, Terraform TF values. Oops, I need a lowercase f. Replace it. Yes. Let's generate the Helm values YAML. Great. And I can also use a Kubernetes config map and deploy that config. Very nice. Great, huh? Thank you for watching this video. I hope it helped you understand how you can start using Configu even today on your already existing application, no matter how you deploy them. There are many features that I couldn't cover on this video, but I promise you I will cover them on my next videos. Comment below if you have any questions or comments, or if you have an open source project and you use Configu and you want to share your experience with me or with Configu, I would like to hear from you. That will be great. Thank you very much. See you in my next videos. Bye bye.